That cold evening, no one expected a rusty metal door to change a life. What started as just another abandoned storage unit became a story the whole town tried to explain, and few had the courage to tell. Before we begin, subscribe and turn on the bell. Here we show that behind locked doors and forgotten boxes, there are still human hearts. Eleanor gripped the steering wheel of her old sedan, the engine ticking like a weary heartbeat as she pulled into the storage facility lot. The sun hung low over the flat sprawl of suburban warehouses, painting the chain-link fence in bruised oranges and purples. It was late September, and the air carried that crisp edge of fall, mixed with the sharper tang of rust and warm asphalt baking under the day's last heat. She hadn't slept well in weeks, not since the hospital bills started piling up like accusations on the kitchen table. At 42, Elena felt every one of those years in the ache of her shoulders, the way her hands trembled slightly when she turned off the ignition. Her daughter Mia was 8 now, all wide eyes and unanswered questions about why Daddy wasn't coming home anymore. The cancer had taken him 2 years back, swift and merciless, leaving Eleanor to juggle night shifts at the diner with PTA meetings and the endless math of making ends meet. The savings were gone, evaporated in treatments and funerals. Rent was 3 months late, and the eviction notice sat folded in her glove compartment like a loaded gun. This, bidding on a blind storage auction, was her Hail Mary. A friend at the diner had whispered about it, how people sometimes struck gold in these forgotten units, furniture to flip, antiques to sell, enough to buy breathing room. Eleanor had scraped together $500 from overtime and a pawned necklace, her wedding ring the only thing she couldn't part with yet. The facility was on the outskirts of town, a maze of identical metal doors stretching down long, shadowed corridors. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh pools of yellow on the cracked concrete. She stepped out, her sneakers scuffing against gravel, and inhaled the faint metallic scent of oil and dust that seemed baked into the place. A small crowd had gathered near Unit 47, mostly men in faded jeans and work boots, murmuring bids like gamblers at a backroom table. The auctioneer, a wiry guy with a clipboard and a voice like gravel, waved them closer. Lot 47, folks. Paid up through last month. Owner vanished. No forwarding, no trace. Contents unknown. Bidding starts at 50. Elena hung back, heart pounding in her throat. She watched the numbers climb, 70, 90, 120. Her mouth went dry. This was foolish. She knew stories of junk and regret far outnumbered the miracles. But Mia's backpack was fraying at the seams, her sneakers too tight, and the diner's tips had dried up with the summer crowd. At 200, the bid slowed. Elena raised her hand before she could talk herself out of it, her voice barely above a whisper. 250. The auctioneer paused, eyes scanning for counters. Silence stretched, broken only by the distant hum of traffic on the highway beyond the fence. Sold to the lady in the blue jacket for 250. She handed over the cash, bills crisp from the ATM, feeling lighter and heavier all at once. The keys jangled in her palm, cold, heavy, like a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. The auctioneer nodded toward the unit. You got till end of day to clear it out or rent it. Good luck. Eleanor walked the corridor alone now, the crowd dispersing like smoke. Unit 47 loomed at the end, its door dented and streaked with faded green paint peeling in curls. A padlock hung loose, the kind that snapped open with a satisfying click under her new key. She hesitated, fingers hovering over the hasp. What if it was nothing? Or worse, what if it was something she couldn't handle? The air felt thicker here, the buzz of the lights louder, echoing off the metal walls. With a deep breath, she slid the door up just a foot, the rollers groaning in protest. Dim light spilled in from the corridor, illuminating shapes shrouded in shadow, not the chaos she'd feared, no toppled boxes or moldy furniture. Instead, Neat stacks of crates, some labeled in faded marker, circuit boards, fragile. The faint scent of ozone wafted out like old electronics left too long in a garage. She crouched, peering under the door. There, a row of monitors, their screens blank and dusty, cords coiled like sleeping snakes, and something bulkier in the back, taller than her, humming faintly even now, as if alive. Her pulse quickened. Electronics, valuable maybe, could be resold online or to a repair shop. But why abandoned? Who leaves this behind? Elena's mind raced with possibilities. A failed startup, a hoarder's estate, something shadier. She pushed the door higher, just enough to squeeze her upper body inside. The space was cool, almost chilly, the concrete floor gritty under her palms. She reached out, brushing dust from a nearby box. Inside, tangled wires and circuit components gleamed dully under her phone's flashlight. Not junk. Professional gear, the kind that spoke of purpose, of someone who knew what they were doing. But as her fingers grazed a small, sealed device, no bigger than a laptop, etched with unfamiliar serial numbers, a chill ran down her spine. It didn't feel right. Too organized, too deliberate, like the remnants of a life interrupted, not discarded. She pulled back, heart hammering, and let the door slide down with a metallic scrape that echoed too loudly in the empty hall. Locking it felt like sealing away a secret she wasn't ready for. The sun had dipped below the roofs now, twilight settling over the lot like a shroud. Elena drove home in the gathering dark, the keys burning a hole in her pocket. Mia was with the neighbor, safe and fed. But as Elena stirred pasta on the stove, her thoughts kept drifting back to that unit. What if it was a windfall? Enough to cover the bills, buy Mia new clothes, maybe even a community college class for herself. Or what if it was trouble? Stolen goods, evidence of something worse. She imagined footsteps in the night, shadows at the door, the police asking questions she couldn't answer. Lying in bed later, the house creaking around her, Elena stared at the ceiling cracks that mapped out like veins. Mia's soft breathing came from the next room, a reminder of why she'd risked it all. Tomorrow, she'd go back, open it fully, face whatever was waiting. But tonight, the what-ifs swirled like dust motes in the fluorescent hum of her memory, pulling her toward a sleep that promised no easy answers. The morning light filtered through the thin curtains of Elena's apartment, casting pale stripes across the cluttered kitchen table, where bills lay scattered like fallen leaves. She hadn't slept much, her dreams tangled with visions of glowing screens and shadowed figures slipping keys into locks. Mia was already up, humming a tune from her school play as she poured cereal, oblivious to the weight pressing on her mother's chest. Eleanor forced a smile, ruffling her daughter's hair. "Big day at school?" she asked, voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "Yeah, art class. We're making collages." Mia's eyes sparkled, but Elena saw the faint weariness there, the too early mornings, the skipped lunches when money ran short. It fueled her resolve. After dropping Mia off, she drove back to the facility, the sedan rattling over potholes that mirrored the unease in her gut. The lot was quieter now, midweek emptiness, broken only by the sporadic clang of a distant door and the low drone of a lawnmower edging the fence line. The air smelled of dew-kissed concrete and faint exhaust. The sun climbing higher, but offering little warmth against the chill of uncertainty. Unit 47 waited like a sentinel, its door sealed tight from the night before. Elena's hands felt clammy as she fitted the key into the padlock, the metal cool and unyielding. She paused, listening to the buzz of fluorescence overhead, the way they flickered like hesitant breaths. What if this was all a mistake? She could walk away, forfeit the unit, explain to Mia that dreams sometimes dissolved into dust. But the eviction notice burned in her mind, and beneath it, the deeper ache of failure, the way she'd promised her late husband she'd keep their little family afloat, no matter what. With a sharp twist, the lock sprang open. The door rolled up smoothly this time, revealing the unit in full daylight. No avalanche of debris, no mouldering relics of a forgotten life. Instead, the space was a meticulously arranged workshop frozen in time. Shelves lined with crates of circuit boards, their green surfaces etched with intricate patterns that caught the light like veins of circuitry. Monitors of varying sizes stood in rows against the back wall, their bezels scuffed but intact. Power cords neatly bundled and labeled in precise handwriting, backup power, surveillance node. The air inside was cooler than expected, carrying a sterile tang of solder and static electricity, as if the ghosts of electrons still lingered. Elena's breath caught. This wasn't hobbyist clutter. It was the arsenal of someone who built worlds in silicon and wire. In the center, dominating the floor space, sat several larger devices, racked servers, their fans silent but poised, humming faintly when she brushed near one. And there, tucked in a corner, the small sealed unit from yesterday, a compact black box, no larger than a briefcase, with ports on one side and a digital display etched in frost. Serial numbers marched across its lid in stark white lettering, alongside a faded sticker. Prototype, do not tamper. Her fingers itched to touch it, but she held back, heart thudding against her ribs. She stepped inside fully, the concrete gritty under her shoes, and knelt by the nearest crate. Prying the lid with a crowbar borrowed from her trunk, she uncovered layers of components. Microchips, resistors, bundles of fiber optic cables shimmering like captured starlight. Valuable, surely. Tech shops would pay for salvage, or she could list them online, piece by piece. But as she delved deeper, unease coiled tighter. Tucked beneath a stack of manuals, yellowed pages on encryption protocols and network security, was a notebook, its cover worn soft. She flipped it open, scanning entries in tight, looping script. Dates from 2 years ago, notes on secure data transfer, mentions of a company called Nexus Innovations, and cryptic phrases like containment breach averted and client files encrypted, priority alpha. Eleanor's mouth went dry. This felt like more than abandoned gear. It whispered of secrets, of work too sensitive to leave exposed. She imagined the owner, a tech whiz perhaps, overwhelmed by deadlines or debt, vanishing into the ether. Or worse, something illicit, data trails leading to corporate espionage or worse. Her hands trembled as she closed the notebook, the weight of it heavier than its pages. She needed air, perspective. Stepping out, she nearly collided with a figure rounding the corridor's bend. "Ma'am, everything all right in there?" The voice was gruff but kind, belonging to a man in his late 50s, grease-streaked overalls, marking him as the facility's maintenance worker. His name tag read Ray, and his face, lined with years under the sun, held a quiet curiosity rather than suspicion. He wiped his hands on a rag, eyes flicking to the open unit. "Saw you bidding yesterday. First time?" Elena nodded, stepping aside as if guarding a threshold. "Yeah, it's electronics, lots of it. Not what I expected." Ray peered in, whistling low through his teeth. "Huh, looks like server farm stuff. High-end, too. I've seen setups like that in the old tech parks before they shuttered. You planning to sell?" "Maybe, but it feels off, like it's not just junk." She hesitated, then gestured to the notebook. "There's logs, notes, about security, data. What if it's stolen, or something I shouldn't touch?" He rubbed his chin, the stubble rasping under his fingers. Ray had worked these lots for 20 years, seen units cough up everything from heirlooms to hazards. Could be legit, guy goes bust, skips town. Oh yeah, trouble, best not to poke alone. I got a buddy, retired IT guy from the force, helped trace a few shady hauls back in the day. Want me to call him? No charge, just hate seeing folks get in over their head." Relief washed over her, mingled with fresh wariness. An ally, unexpected in this cold expanse of metal and shadow. "I'd appreciate that. I can't afford to mess this up." Ray nodded, pulling out his phone. As he stepped away to make the call, Eleanor lingered at the unit's edge, the hum of the servers now a murmur in her ears. The light shifted, midday sun slanting through a high window, illuminating dust motes dancing like digital code. She thought of Mia's collage, fragments pieced into something whole. Maybe this was hers to assemble or dismantle with care. But the sealed box in the corner seemed to watch her, its secrets coiled tight, promising revelations that could shatter or save. By afternoon, Ray's friend arrived, a wiry ex-cop named Harlan with a toolkit and a no-nonsense squint. They worked methodically, photographing everything, cracking open crates under his guidance. More components emerged, hard drives wiped clean but labeled with project codes, a dismantled drone frame hinting at surveillance tech. Harlan's brow furrowed at the notebook. Nexus? They folded last year, scandal with data leaks. This could be leftovers from a cleanup crew, or evidence someone wanted buried. Elena's pulse raced as they approached the sealed device. Harlan's gloved hands hesitated over its latch. This one's different. Looks custom. We open it, we might cross a line. The air thickened, the buzz of light sinking with her shallow breaths. She nodded, torn between the pull of answers and the safety of ignorance. With a soft click, the lid lifted, revealing not cash or contraband, but a single drive nestled in foam, its label reading Final Upload, EM. Initials that meant nothing yet, but stirred a whisper of someone else's unfinished story. As the sun dipped low again, casting long shadows across the lot, Elena locked the unit once more, the weight of partial truths heavier than before. Harlan promised to run checks discreetly. Ray clapped her shoulder with a gruff, "You're doing right by facing it." Driving home, the highway's hum blended with her thoughts. Mia's future, the risks she'd invited in. Tonight, the what-ifs sharpened. Not just windfall or waste, but a moral fork in the road, where one wrong turn could unravel everything she'd fought to hold together. Elena sat at the scarred Formica table in her kitchen, the single bulb overhead casting a jaundiced glow that made the shadows in the corners deepen like unspoken worries. Mia was tucked in, her small chest rising and falling in the rhythm of innocent sleep. But Elena's mind churned, replaying the day's discoveries in loops as relentless as the server's faint hum. The drive from the sealed box now rested in a locked drawer, its innocuous black casing hiding whatever Final Upload, EM, meant. Harlan had taken photos and promised to dig into the serials without alerting anyone official, not yet. "Give me a day," he'd said, his voice gravelly over the phone earlier. "If it's clean, you might have a gold mine. If not, we'll know how deep the hole goes." She traced the edge of an unpaid utility bill with her fingernail, the paper crinkling softly. The electronics could fetch thousands if salvaged right, enough to clear the arrears, maybe even put a deposit on a better place, one with a yard for Mia to chase fireflies in summer. But the notebook's entries gnawed at her, references to encrypted client files, a hurried scrawl about avoiding audit trails. Nexus Innovations. Harlan had confirmed it was a defunct firm, tangled in lawsuits over mishandled data, whispers of whistleblowers vanishing mid-investigation. What if this unit was a dump site for evidence? Stolen tech, proprietary secrets. The thought sent a shiver through her, not from the draft sneaking under the window, but from the imagined knock at the door, badges flashing, questions piling like the dust in Unit 47. Sleep came in fits, the apartment's thin walls amplifying the night's sounds, a car backfiring like a gunshot, the neighbor's TV murmuring through the vent. By dawn, Elena was up, brewing coffee that tasted more of bitterness than comfort. She dropped Mia at school with a quick hug, promising pancakes on the weekend if things turned out. The drive to the facility felt longer, the suburbs blurring into a haze of strip malls and fading billboards, the air through the cracked window carrying the faint rot of fallen leaves. The lot was empty, save for Ray's truck, parked crooked near the office, its toolbox spilling over the tailgate like an afterthought. Ray was inside the unit when she arrived, his flashlight beam cutting through the dimness as he catalogued crates with a battered notebook of his own. The space felt smaller now, more confining, the shelves looming like silent witnesses. "Harlan called me last night," he said without looking up, his voice echoing off the metal walls. "That drive, its custom, high-security encryption, the kind used for sensitive transfers. EM might be the owner's initials, Elena something. He couldn't pull records without a warrant, but he's cross-checking old employee lists from Nexus." Elena knelt beside him, the concrete biting through her jeans, and pulled a crate closer. The scent of warmed plastic and faint ozone rose as she unpacked more components. Sleek routers with corporate logos, faded but legible, a stack of external drives wrapped in anti-static bags. Each piece felt heavier, laced with implication. "What if it's illegal? I can't just sell this stuff. Mia, if the cops come, or worse, whoever left it." Her voice trailed off, the words sticking like grit in her throat. Ray set down his pen, his eyes meeting hers, steady, weathered by decades of fixing what others broke. "Seen it before. Folks think they're clever, hiding trouble in plain sight. But you're not them. Question is, do you walk now? Forfeit the unit? Say it was a bust? Or do we keep peeling layers till we see the core?" He gestured to a larger rack in the back, partially obscured by tarps. "That one's got a power strip still plugged in. Faint draw on the meter. Something's alive in there." Her pulse quickened, a mix of dread and compulsion pulling her forward. Together, they tugged the tarp free, dust billowing in a cloud that caught the slanting morning light, filtering through the corridor. Beneath lay a console setup, multiple screens networked to a central tower, its LEDs pulsing dimly like a heartbeat. Keyboards and peripherals lay arranged as if mid-use, a half-empty coffee mug perched on the edge, its rim stained brown. Elena's breath hitched. The mug was real, personal, a relic of interruption. She powered it on cautiously, Harlan's warnings echoing, "Don't connect to the net, just observe." The tower whirred to life, fans stirring the stale air into a low whoosh. One screen flickered, displaying a login prompt overlaid with a corporate watermark, Nexus Innovations. Below it, a forgotten sticky note curled at the edges. E. Morales, backup complete. Call RE, anomaly. E.M. Elena Morales. The name tugged at something vague, a local story perhaps, buried in the news feeds she'd scrolled during late-night shifts. Ray leaned in, his shadow merging with hers on the wall. Anomaly. Sounds like trouble. Could be a glitch or something they buried. As the system booted further, files began to populate a desktop. Icons for Project Veil, secure archives, folders time-stamped months before the company's collapse. Elena's fingers hovered over the keys, temptation warring with fear. Open one, and she might unlock value, or unleash a Pandora's box of liability. What if these were client records, identities stolen or sold? The moral weight pressed down, heavier than the crates. Greed could buy time, but integrity might preserve her soul. Mia's future untainted. She closed the lid instead, the click resounding like a decision deferred. Harlan arrived by noon, his sedan crunching gravel as he pulled up. He carried a laptop for offline analysis, his face etched with the skepticism of 20 years on the force. "Got a hit," he said, spreading printouts on a cleared shelf. "Elena Morales, lead engineer at Nexus, went missing 3 years back. Official story, burnout, left town. But rumors, she flagged irregularities, data funneled to offshore accounts. Never surfaced. This unit was rented in her name. Payments stopped cold." The revelation hung in the air, thick as the dust settling around them. Elena stared at the console, imagining a woman like her, driven, desperate, pouring her life into circuits, only to vanish, leaving echoes in silicon. Was this her escape, or erasure. The electronics shifted from potential profit to a haunting archive, demanding restitution over resale. "I can't keep it," Elena whispered, her voice breaking the hush. "But destroying it feels wrong. What if her family's out there, or the truth she tried to protect?" Harlan nodded, packing his tools. "Smart. We'll document, then contact the estate or authorities. Anonymous tip if you want distance. You've got a good head. Most would have bolted with the shiny bits." Ray clapped her back gently, a rare warmth in the cold space. As they locked up, the sun beat down on the lot, turning the asphalt to a shimmering mirage. Elena drove home with the weight of choices coiling tighter, the highway's distant roar a counterpoint to her resolve. Tonight she'd research Morales, piece together the human behind the code. The fork loomed clearer: silence for safety, or pursuit for justice. Each path a risk to the fragile peace she'd clawed to maintain. Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far these stories of courage in forgotten places can travel. Elena barely tasted the instant noodles she'd microwaved for dinner, the steam curling up like unanswered questions in the dim kitchen light. Mia chattered about her day, something about a playground game and a new friend, but Elena's nods came automatic, her mind anchored to the printouts Harlan had left, now spread across the table like a digital autopsy. Elena Morales, 38 at disappearance, no body, no leads. A photo from an old company profile showed a woman with sharp features and tired eyes, her hair pulled back in a practical bun, much like Elena's own. The resemblance was superficial, but the parallels cut deeper. Single mom, tech whiz climbing from community college to lead engineer, pouring overtime into a firm that promised stability but delivered shadows. She'd spent the evening on her laptop, the screen's glow harsh against the apartment's peeling wallpaper, fingers flying over keys in cautious searches. Nexus Innovations, founded in the early 2000s, specializing in secure data storage for banks and governments, until a 2021 scandal unraveled it. Leaked emails, anonymous posts on forums, whispers of executives siphoning client data to dark web markets, masking it as routine backups. Morales' name surfaced in fragments, a patent co-authored on encryption tech, a LinkedIn update about ethical concerns, posted weeks before she vanished. No family mentioned, just a sister in a neighboring state who'd filed a missing persons report, quickly dismissed as voluntary departure. Elena rubbed her temples, the faint scent of Mia's strawberry shampoo lingering from bedtime hugs. What if Morales had stashed this unit as a failsafe, a time capsule of proof? Exposing it could right a wrong, but at what cost? Her own life teetered, debts mounting, Mia's school fees due, greed tempted, but the mug's coffee stain haunted her, a human echo demanding more than salvage. Sleep evaded her again, the clock ticking past midnight as rain pattered against the window, turning the parking lot below into a slick mirror of sodium lamps. By morning, the sky hung grey and heavy, the air thick with petrichor, as Elena navigated the sedan's wipers through a drizzle that smeared the windshield like blurred memories. The facility's lot pooled with shallow water, reflecting the overcast sky in oily sheens, the chain-link fence rattling softly in the wind. Ray was already there, his truck's wipers thumping rhythmically as he unloaded extension cords from the bed. Harlan pulled up moments later, his face drawn under a hooded jacket, carrying a portable hard drive for safe file extraction. "Couldn't stay away, huh?" Ray said, his voice carrying over the rain's steady drum on the metal roof. He unlocked the unit, the door groaning upward, to reveal the contents unchanged. The console's LEDs winking like distant stars in the gloom. The air inside felt damper now, carrying a metallic tang sharpened by the storm, the concrete floor slick underfoot. Elena shook her head, stepping in with a flashlight to chase shadows from the corners. "Need to know more. If it's evidence, I can't just profit off someone else's fight." Her words hung, vulnerable in the confined space, but Harlan grunted approval, setting up his laptop on a cleared crate. The three of them formed an unlikely circle. Ray with his rag and steady hands, Harlan's methodical taps on keys, Elena hovering like a guardian over the humming tower. They started slow, Harlan isolating the console's drive to his offline system, the fans whirring louder as data spooled across his screen in encrypted streams. Folders unfolded. Project Veil held schematics for a data obfuscation tool designed to veil transfers from oversight, legit on paper, but annotations in Morales' script noted flagged for misuse, executive overrides. Deeper in, secure archives revealed logs, timestamps of massive file dumps to untraceable servers. Client names redacted but patterns clear, financial firms, perhaps even local ones, their secrets funneled out under the cover of routine maintenance. Elena's stomach twisted as a subfolder opened, anomaly reports, grainy screenshots of internal chats, Morales' username bolded, irregular access detected, IP traces to offshore. Not a glitch, escalating to board. Replies dismissed her, laced with urgency to contain. The last entry, dated 3 days before the rental payment stopped. Backup complete. If I don't make it to the meeting, this is the key. Protect the truth for my daughter. A photo attached, a young girl, maybe 6, grinning at a birthday cake, eyes mirroring the missing woman's. The rain intensified outside, drumming on the roof like impatient fingers, the corridor's fluorescence flickering in sympathy. Elena's hand flew to her mouth, a sob catching in her throat. Morales had a daughter, abandoned perhaps, or hidden. The parallels clawed at her. Mia's face superimposed over the photo, the shared terror of leaving a child adrift. She was trying to blow the whistle, Elena whispered, the words echoing off the metal walls. This isn't junk, it's her stand. But if I turn it over, what happens? Cops, lawyers, my name on it all. We lose everything. Harlan leaned back, rubbing his jaw, the stubble rasping like sandpaper. Seen cases like this bury good people. Nexus had pull, settled suits quietly, but loose ends get tied off messy. You expose it. You might save her legacy, get a reward if it's federal, or you walk, sell the hardware clean, claim ignorance. His eyes, sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses, held no judgment, just the weight of choices he'd witnessed shatter lives. Ray shifted, his boots scraping the floor, the sound grounding in the tension. Integrity's a long road, but it don't buckle like shortcuts. My wife. She passed from something we could have caught early if Docs listened. Regrets the real thief. He glanced at Elena, his gruff exterior cracking with rare empathy. Call the sister, anonymous, mail the drive, let her decide. You're not alone in this. The proposal settled over her like the rain's chill, a path between abyss and oblivion. Elena stared at the screen, the girl's photo frozen in pixels, her own reflection ghostly in the monitor. Fear coiled tight, visions of shadowed figures tracking the unit, questions at Mia's school, the diner's manager firing her for distractions. But beneath it, a spark. Responsibility, not just to survive, but to honor the courage Morales had mustered, vanishing to protect what mattered. She nodded slowly, the motion deliberate, as thunder rumbled distant over the highway's hum. They spent the afternoon copying files to Harlan's secure drive, photographing every detail, the notebooks, the components, even the coffee mug's faint ring on the console. The work was meticulous, the air growing stuffy with their shared breaths, the scent of wet earth seeping in from the storm. By dusk, the sky cleared to a bruised lavender, puddles steaming on the asphalt as Elena locked the unit one last time. Harlan promised to vet the sisters' contact through old channels. Ray offered his garage for temporary storage if needed. Driving home, wipers swishing the last drops, Elena felt the moral crossroads sharpen. Forward into the fray, risking the fragile life she'd built. or sideways into silence, safe but stained. Mia greeted her with a drawing, a house with a big yard, stick figures smiling under a sun. Elena hugged her tight, the paper crinkling against her chest, the scent of crayons a balm against the day's grit. Tonight, she'd draft the letter, anonymous and true. The electronics loomed in her mind, no longer mere salvage, but a bridge to redemption. For Morales, for her daughter, for the woman staring back from the rear view, finally choosing light over shadow. But as the apartment lights flickered on, doubt whispered. Some secrets once stirred refused to settle quietly. The days blurred into a tense rhythm. Elena's life now a delicate balance between the diner's grease-slicked counters and the shadowed secrets of Unit 47. Rain had given way to crisp autumn winds that whistled through the facility's corridors, carrying the faint, acrid bite of burning leaves from nearby fields. She moved through her shifts on autopilot, smiling at regulars who ordered the same hash browns. But her mind replayed the console's glow, the girl's birthday photo etched like a scar. Mia noticed the distraction, her small hand slipping into Elena's during evening walks home, the pavement crunching under their boots. "Mom, you okay? You look like you're solving a puzzle." Elena squeezed back, the warmth grounding her. "Just grown-up stuff, sweetie. We'll be fine." Harlan's call came late one evening, his voice crackling through the apartment's ancient phone like static from an old radio. "Sister's name is Carla Ruiz. Lives in Reno now, works as a nurse. No direct ties to Nexus, but she pushed the missing persons case hard at first, then went quiet. Address confirmed, she's clean." He paused, the line humming with unspoken caution. "Mailed the drive yet?" Elena glanced at the envelope on the table, sealed and addressed in block letters, the USB tucked inside with a printed note. "Found in storage. Belonged to Elena Morales. Truth matters." No return address, just a postmark from the next town over. "Tomorrow," she said, her throat tight. "Ray's helping me box the rest. Keep it secure till we know." The next morning dawned brittle and clear, frost glazing the sedan's windshield like fragile code. Elena scraped it away with a credit card edge, the scrape echoing her frayed nerves, before heading to the facility. The lot shimmered under a low sun, chain-link shadows stretching long across the gravel. Ray waited by the unit, his breath visible in puffs, a dolly and padded crates at his feet. The door rolled up with its familiar groan, releasing a puff of cooler air laced with the dry, plasticky scent of undisturbed tech. The space felt more exposed now, the shelves half bare from their cataloguing, components sorted into labeled bins. Salvage, legal, evidence, do not touch. They worked in companionable silence at first, Ray's hands steady as he wrapped the monitors in bubble wrap, the pop of air pockets punctuating the quiet. Elena handled the notebooks and files, her fingers lingering on Morales' script, tight loops that spoke of precision under pressure. "Ever think about what drives someone to vanish like that?" she asked, voice low as if the walls might carry echoes. Ray straightened, wiping sweat from his brow despite the chill, his rag leaving a faint oil streak. "Fear, mostly, or love, protecting what's yours. My boy, he joined the service last year, said it's about leaving something better behind." "Morales?" Sounds like she tried. The words landed heavy, stirring memories of her husband's last days, the way he'd gripped her hand, whispering promises about Mia's future even as machines beeped their relentless countdown. Elena paused, a hard drive balanced in her palm, its weight a metaphor for burdens unshared. Outside, a truck rumbled past on the highway, its bass vibrating through the metal floor, reminding her of the world's indifference. She imagined Morales in this very spot, frantic under fluorescent buzz, sealing away her fight before slipping into the night. Not a criminal, but a guardian, trading visibility for the chance her daughter might one day know the truth. Harlan arrived mid-morning, his toolkit clanking as he stepped in, eyes scanning the organized chaos. Post office drops easy, anonymous locker if you're paranoid. But words stirring, called an old contact at the DA's office, Nexus leftovers pop up now and then. If this hits, it could reopen the case. He knelt by the console, now disconnected and shrouded, running a final scan. The screen flickered to life one last time, pulling up a hidden partition Elena hadn't seen, audio files, time-stamped late nights. She hit play on one, the speaker crackling with Morales' voice, measured, urgent. Log entry 47, transfers confirmed 3 terabytes to Cayman servers, not backups, sales. If you're hearing this, board knows I copied it. For Sophia, don't let them erase us. The name, Sophia, hung in the air, the recording ending in a click that echoed like a door slamming. Elena's knees buckled slightly. She leaned against a shelf, the metal cool through her jacket. Sophia, the girl in the photo, now 11 perhaps, growing up without answers. Tears pricked her eyes, hot and unbidden. The scent of solder suddenly overwhelming, like the tang of betrayal. She named her daughter after this unit, Elena murmured, connecting the dots. 47, like a beacon. Harlan closed the laptop, his face softening for the first time, lines etching deeper. Makes it personal. You mail that drive. You're not just helping a ghost. You're giving a kid her mom back in pieces. But doubt clawed in, sharp as the wind rattling the door. What if Carla dismissed it as a hoax? Or worse, what if Nexus remnants, executives long escaped scrutiny, caught wind? Elena pictured Mia at the kitchen table, crayons scattered, asking why strangers knocked at night. The moral crossroads loomed stark. Send the package and step into the unknown, her name potentially linked through the unit's records. Or bury it deeper, sell the salvage quietly, let Morales' stand fade into digital dust. Ray sensed her turmoil, setting down a crate with a soft thud. Choice like this, it don't come with maps. But I've fixed enough locks to know, ones you force break later. Do it for the girl, and yours. They finished packing by noon, the unit echoing emptier, crates stacked like tombstones of a silenced life. Elena drove to the post office alone, the envelope burning in her glove compartment, rain starting again in fat drops that blurred the road. She mailed it from a rural branch, heart pounding as the clerk stamped it, the thud final. Back home, Mia's laughter from the living room pulled her in, a board game with the neighbor's kid, pieces scattered like hopeful fragments. Elena joined them, forcing normalcy, but inside, tension coiled tighter. That night, as thunder rolled distant, she lay awake, the apartment's hum mingling with her pulse. The die was cast, but ripples spread. A call from an unknown number the next day, or shadows at the facility. Hope flickered, fragile as the first stars piercing the clouds, redemption not in riches, but in carrying the weight others couldn't, forging a path where fear yielded to quiet strength. Yet the unknown pressed close, whispering that some truths demanded a price she might not be ready to pay. The envelope's absence from the glove compartment felt like a phantom limb, a void that echoed through Elena's every movement as she navigated the diner's breakfast rush. Grease sizzled on the griddle behind the counter, the air thick with the cloying sweetness of pancakes and the bitter undercurrent of burnt coffee, but her thoughts drifted to the post office's indifferent stamp, sealing her into Morales' unfinished saga. 2 days had passed since the mailing, each hour stretching like wire under strain. Mia's questions about the big boxes Elena had mentioned in passing were deflected with vague promises of surprises, but the girl's trusting eyes only amplified the knot in Elena's chest, the fear that her choice might invite chaos into their fragile routine. At the facility that afternoon, the wind had picked up, whipping dust across the lot in gritty eddies that stung her cheeks like accusations. The chain-link fence rattled a ceaseless tattoo, harmonizing with the distant thrum of semis on the highway. their trailers casting fleeting shadows over the metal doors. Unit 47 stood resolute, its contents now mostly boxed and stowed in Ray's garage, a concession to caution. The space inside echoing hollowly when she rolled up the door. Only the console remained, disconnected and veiled under a tarp, its presence a sentinel against further intrusion. Ray was tinkering with the lock mechanism nearby, his tools clinking softly, the scent of WD-40 cutting through the pervasive rust and oil. "Any word?" he asked without preamble, straightening with a grunt, his rag dangling from a belt loop like a flag of surrender. His face, etched with fresh worry lines, mirrored her own unrest, the kind that settled in the bones after too many sleepless nights. Elena shook her head, leaning against the doorframe, the cool metal seeping through her jacket. Nothing. Harlan's monitoring, but what if it got lost? Or Carla throws it away? The words tasted like ash, her fingers twisting the unit's key in her pocket, the edges biting into her palm. She'd imagined scenarios endlessly. The sister opening the package in a quiet Reno kitchen, dawn light slanting across a Formica table much like her own, recognition dawning like a slow boot-up, or rejection, tossing it as junk mail, the truth discarded again. Deeper fears gnawed. What if Nexus's ghosts lingered, tracing the postmark back to her? Footsteps in the night, a car idling too long outside the apartment, Mia's safety the ultimate stake. Ray wiped his hands, the motion deliberate, buying time. Truth like that don't vanish easy, but waiting's the killer, eats at you till you're hollow. He glanced at the empty unit, its bare concrete floor scuffed from their comings and goings, dust motes swirling in the slanted light like unsettled data particles. Sold a few pieces yet. The routers, clean ones, could ease the bills while we wait. She nodded faintly, having listed a handful online through Harlan's anonymous account, enough for a month's rent, wired discreetly to her bank. The transactions felt tainted, each ping of notification a reminder of the line she walked, salvaging the shell while guarding the core. But integrity demanded more. Morales' voice from the audio log replayed in her mind, urgent and unbroken. For Sophia, a daughter like Mia left to navigate a world stripped of anchors. Elena's hand trembled as she traced the shelf where the notebooks had sat, the faint outline of labels still visible in the dust. I keep seeing her, Morales. What if sending it wasn't enough? What if Sophia needs more than files? Before Ray could respond, her phone buzzed in her pocket, the vibration jolting through her like an electric surge. She fumbled it out, screen blurring under her thumb, an unknown number, area code Nevada. Her breath caught. The corridor's fluorescence buzzing louder in the sudden hush, casting her shadow long and wavering against the wall. Ray's eyes sharpened, nodding encouragement as she answered, voice barely steady. "Hello?" A pause, then a woman's voice, measured, laced with the faint tremor of disbelief. "This is Carla Ruiz. I got a package today. No sender, just a note about my sister. Elena Morales." "How did you—" The line crackled, distance amplifying the raw edge in her tone, like a signal fighting static. Elena's knees weakened. She slid down the doorframe to sit on the gritty concrete, the chill grounding her. "I found it in a storage unit. Her unit. Electronics, files, everything. I didn't know what else to do." Words tumbled out in a rush, the confession spilling like backed-up code. The auction, the discoveries, the moral tangle that had kept her up nights. Carla listened, breath shallow over the line, punctuated by the soft clink of what might have been keys or a coffee mug set down hard. "It's real," Carla whispered finally, voice breaking. "The photo of Sophia. God, I haven't seen that in years. She was trying to expose them, the company. They ruined her, pressured her out. Then she just... gone." Sophia's with foster care now, bounced around. This could change everything, prove she didn't abandon us. A sob escaped, muffled, the sound human and harrowing in the industrial void. Who are you? Why help? Eleanor closed her eyes, Mia's drawing flashing in her mind, the hopeful lines of a house, a family intact. I'm a mum, too. Lost my husband. I know what it's like to fight for scraps of tomorrow. This wasn't about money, not anymore. The admission hung, vulnerable, the wind outside whipping harder, rattling the fence like impatient ghosts. They talked for an hour, plans sketching out. Carla would lawyer up, anonymous for now, but Elena's details if needed for affidavits. Harlan would liaise discreetly, bridging the gap with his contacts. As the call ended, promise threading through exhaustion. Thank you. You've given us a door we thought locked forever. Elena pocketed the phone, tears tracing warm paths down her cheeks. Ray helped her up, his grip firm, the scent of oil on his hands a steady anchor. Did right, he murmured. The words simple but weighted, echoing off the empty unit. But elation soured quickly into fresh dread. Driving home through twilight's deepening blue, the highway lights streaking like fiber optics, Elena's mind raced ahead. Court dates, depositions, her name surfacing in records. The diner shift loomed tomorrow, but what if questions followed? Mia's school, the apartment, exposures she'd never anticipated. At home, she hugged her daughter tighter than usual, the girl's small frame warm against the evening chill seeping through the windows. Bedtime stories blurred with introspection, tales of hidden treasures morphing into metaphors for buried truths. That night, rain returned in sheets, drumming the roof like Morse code warnings. Harlan texted late. Ruiz confirmed legit. Feds interested. Quietly. Stay low. Relief mingled with terror. The path she'd chosen forked again, demanding she testify or fade. Elena lay awake, the apartment's hum a counterpoint to her pulse, weighing the cost. Upend her life for strangers' justice or pull back. Let Carla carry the load alone. Ray's words resurfaced, integrity's long road, and she clung to them, fingers brushing the wedding ring on her chain, a talisman against the storm. Courage, she realized, wasn't absence of fear, but stepping through despite it, for the daughters who deserved unbroken legacies. Yet as lightning flashed, illuminating cracks in the ceiling, doubt lingered. Some doors, once ajar, pulled you into depths where light was hard won. If this story already has your heart, hit the like button. It helps the story of Elena reach more people who still believe in second chances. Weeks turned into months, the autumn chill giving way to winter's brittle frost that crunched under Elena's boots as she pulled into the storage facility lot one final time. The chain-link fence stood sentinel under a slate-grey sky, its links dusted with the first light snow. The distant highway, a muffled hum through the flurries. Unit 47's door hung slightly ajar, the padlock long removed, its interior stripped bare, save for faint scuff marks on the concrete floor where crates had once stood. The air inside carried a hollow echo, laced with the faint lingering scent of ozone and dust, like a memory etched into the metal walls. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the corridor, casting elongated shadows that danced like unresolved code. It had been 4 months since Carla's call, a lifeline thrown across state lines that had pulled Elena into a web of lawyers, depositions, and quiet federal inquiries. The drive she'd mailed became the cornerstone. Morales' logs and audio files unraveling Nexus's underbelly, data sales masked as backups, executives skimming millions, while engineers like her bore the ethical weight. No body ever surfaced, but the evidence painted a picture of coercion, a disappearance engineered to silence a whistleblower. Sophia, now 12, had been located in a Reno group home, her Aunt Carla fighting for custody with the files as ammunition. Elena had testified remotely at first, her voice steady over a video link from the diner's back office, Harlan coaching her through the jargon. But integrity demanded more. She'd flown out once, meeting Carla in a sterile courthouse hallway. The two women, strangers bound by shared loss, exchanging a nod that spoke volumes. "You gave her back to us," Carla had said, eyes glistening under the harsh fluorescence, her hand brief on Elena's arm. The decision hadn't come easy. Nights after the mailing, Elena had paced the apartment's worn linoleum, Mia's soft snores from the next room a counterpoint to her racing thoughts. Fear had clawed deep, visions of subpoenas disrupting Mia's school plays, the diner's manager eyeing her with suspicion as news snippets leaked. But Morales' voice in those logs, for Sophia, echoed louder than the doubts, a call to the courage Elena had buried under survival's grind. She chose the honest path. Full disclosure. No anonymity. Harlan connected her to a pro bono attorney specializing in corporate fraud, and Ray became the steady anchor, his garage a makeshift warehouse for the salvaged electronics. They sold the clean components legally, routers to a local repair shop, monitors refurbished for a community center, funneling proceeds through a trust to avoid taint. Enough to clear the debts. Rent paid 6 months ahead, Mia's sneakers replaced with room to grow, even a down payment on evening classes in computer basics at the community college. "You're rebuilding circuits of your own," Ray had grunted one evening, handing her a toolkit as snow flurried outside his shop, the scent of solder and pine from his Christmas tree mingling in the warm air. The helpers wove into her life like unexpected threads in a frayed tapestry. Harlan, the retired cop, checked in weekly, his gravelly updates a balm, Nexus executives indicted, settlements trickling toward Sophia's future. He'd even helped Elena set up a basic home network, his wire-rimmed glasses slipping as he explained firewalls. Turning her trepidation into tentative skill, Ray evolved from facility handyman to friend, joining Sunday dinners where Mia's laughter filled the apartment. His stories of fixed locks and mended lives, a quiet counter to the past's shadows. "Worlds full of rusty doors," he'd say, fork pausing over pot roast, the steam curling like hope. "You just gotta turn the key right." Carla sent updates too, letters with photos of Sophia, the girl's wary smile softening over time, a thank you etched in careful script. "Mum's truth set us free. Yours did too." Practical steps grounded the whirlwind. Elena quit the diner after landing a part-time gig at an electronics recycler, sorting boards under steady lights that no longer buzzed with dread. The work suited her, methodical, revealing hidden value in the discarded, much like the unit's secrets. Mia thrived, her collages now adorning the walls with bolder colors. Dreams of art camp whispered over breakfasts, no longer rushed. The apartment felt less like a cage, windows cracked to let in spring's tentative warmth as winter thawed. Elena's hands, once trembling on the padlock, now steadied on keyboards, piecing together a resume that blended her story with newfound expertise. No windfall riches, but a foundation, debts erased, skills blooming, a life no longer defined by the edge of eviction. Returning to the empty unit that afternoon, Elena lingered in the doorway, the cold air nipping at her cheeks, the concrete's grit familiar under her palms as she traced the shelf outlines. Snowflakes drifted in through the open door, melting into tiny pools that caught the fading light. The space, once heavy with mystery and moral weight, now stood as a monument, hollow but hallowed, a turning point where fear had yielded to clarity. She thought of Morales, the woman who'd vanished into the ether, her legacy salvaged not for profit, but preservation. A soft beep from her phone broke the hush. A text from Carla. "Sophia starts school with her aunt next fall. We owe you everything." Elena smiled, pocketing it, the wind whispering through the corridor like a final sigh. As she rolled the door down with a resonant clang, the lock clicking secure in her hand, Elena stepped back into the lot, the sun breaking through clouds to gild the fence in gold. The hum of traffic beyond felt like a pulse renewed, carrying her forward. Doors, she realized, weren't just barriers. They were invitations to the courage that quietly reshapes everything. Subscribe for more stories of compassion, justice, and redemption. Thank you for watching the case of the mysterious electronics. See you in the next one. In the end, it was the empty spaces that taught the deepest lessons, echoes of what was lost, room for what could be built.